Here we are. Hello, good morning. I'm going to do a different voice series this morning, also because I usually do that for students. But since we have so many not raw, not honest conversations, and sometimes you have no idea of how actually it is the discourse into the studio and what they are the issues. Also said, the solution that we find and that they get so important for artists. I think that this time, this sort of answer and discourse that I usually do in my lessons, I will do it public. I will use the adjective, the pronoun it, not to make the outing of the student I'm talking about, who is a singer, who has the usual kind of problem that I help find a solution for. A permanent solution? No. Good enough for the career, good enough for their life, good enough to navigate this starting of career that sometimes is quite tricky. This is really just for artists. The other people who are my students, they don't present that, or they don't present that in that way, because we have to be sincere and honest. Us artists have something peculiar that can be seen quite commonly, that can be seen as a pattern that we have to be open to talk about. I'm talking about something that usually is said in a very nuanced, not honest way, but from outside we can see it sometimes in an honest way. Also said, some they say singers world or musicians, or sometimes artists, or sometimes comedians, it is said to be plenty of narcissists. What they intend? Yeah, sometimes they're narcissists. I'm not a psychologist, so I don't want to evaluate nobody because it's not my expertise and it's not my place. But we know all that there are some. Really, truly. I'm not talking about that because the generalization has something true and something not complete. And again, I'm not making a diagnosis because it's not my place and we never diagnose people and we do not judge. But we talk about something that is called in that way for some reasons. We can call it in a different way. We can see the thing in a different way. And we can be raw and honest about what it is. We are very focused. We are very focused on something that sometimes it is original, sometimes it is innovative, sometimes it is not yet ready. And we have to protect it from the pushes of the world that does not see it yet, or from our not yet effective point of manifesting it as an artistic thing. What it means? It means that to maintain the focus, we have to resist adaptation. And it is a fact. And it is a strong point. And it is a thing that we want to do. Tori Amos said, my producer or discographers, they told her not to do the first album as she wanted. And she maintained the point. So it is really a crucial point that we have to maintain. It is our best quality. Does it have some dark side of the moon, sides of that? Yes, mostly, and a lot. Because we have to realize that as artists, we get to inhabit a place in which our talent, our intuition, our human specific capacity of feeling something right, even if not yet into mainstream common knowledge, we can say in advance, that is the originality of putting things, has not a clear understanding about that. At the same time, we are human beings. And as human beings, we don't understand all just because we get into an happy and at the same time quite charged place in which we can expand ourselves and incarnate with sounds, with experiences, with songs, with a performance, with a sculpture that remains there, a moment of truth there, doesn't mean that we have grown there organically. Usually we have not, because we are human beings. And human beings have those intuitions, but we have also our biological part and our survival part and our reptilian part, you call it as you want, that does not get into perfect, complete growing of that. We can also understand that in that way. When we sing, we use our biological system to be the former and the reality messenger of something that is also often bigger than our growth at that moment and at our comprehension. This is fantastic, and we know why we do it, and it is specific for us, and it is a gift and a burden at the same time. A burden because we still are not completely there. So when they say we are narcissists, probably we have just to protect ourselves more than not artists, and our human existence have the charge of this, inhabiting and performing in a place that is not usual place for human life. Also said, you can say that the creative act, it is a sort of maniac episode. It is perhaps for some of us, it is a maniac episode and we get there in that way. But at the same time, we do not need to be bipolar. But just the creative act, if it gets too far into the time, create a problem into our neurological system. So we have to learn to manage that. When we start, we don't learn to manage that. And to learn to manage that, it's not our best way of doing, and it creates some imbalances. Sometimes we start with some personal imbalances, and that's why we use the talent to get there, and we are true artists in the way that I'm talking about, that we have to do it no matter what life presents us. We are artists no matter what. And it is the thing for which Tony Bennett said about the late Amy Winehouse. It is unfortunate that sometimes we don't live enough to know that if we live enough, life teaches us how to live. What it means? It means that there is this objective burden of the thing. Does it start with us? Or is it something that the artist? I do not have all these answers, but I'm just posing the reality of what we have to manage in our life. Why I'm talking that about our studio? Because what you see that Tony Bennett talks about sometimes does affect your capacity of becoming a singer or of becoming an artist. Also said, it gets in the way from really and truly becoming effective. Usually we don't talk about those because they don't get to be artists. Or we say the access of the narcissism or it acts like a star when the artistic part is effective. I am one of those, I'm one of the few, for now, put in reality biology biomechanics of the non-effectiveness. Into the non-effectiveness, you have all the accesses in the people, in the artists, that you're going to see after. Why I say that I don't believe we are that much narcissists, even if they catalog us as narcissists, because we have a big ego, but performing with the voice, he's becoming vulnerable. He's becoming accountable in some sort. You get to sing the repertoire, you get to sing with the band, you get to rehearsals, you get to the concerts, and you give. And you give for a time. That is exactly the line of separation with the narcissist. The narcissist, they don't get accountable. They don't bear to be maintained accountable. To be a singer, you must be accountable. So, what are we talking about? We talk of all the other behaviors in which you see that as artists we have life a little harder sometimes, or we have to learn, as Tony Bennett says. The case I wanted to talk about, one of my students, I love very much, I respect very much, I'm very fond. I ask objective, and we work on objective. What it means objective? The repertoire, well, it has to be accountable. The repertoire, it has to develop. The capacity of being adaptable, able, the craft into this repertoire. This is when it works. This is where it doesn't work. You usually come to me where it doesn't work. I help strategize to get there. We have the negative feedback. Also said, you learn to remain here, and that's why you're ineffective. I give bridges to get there. What is the strategy? Since you are here it's where you put what we call excesses, defensiveness. What it is defensiveness? We change rhythm, we change the tempo, and you get back to your interpretation and you don't adapt. Also said, some will say you don't have the craft to do the repertoire here. I'm not going to call you. How much can you get there for some time without having so much of negative feedback to get back there and to be stuck there? Yes, we do. How? We strategize. How? We decide where we give ourselves permission to mess up and where we don't give ourselves permission to mess up. What happens usually with artists being beyond the line of accountability? The ego has a problem to be accountable where he has decided to be defensive. That's why it's so tricky. And since it's tricky, we take it as tricky, not changing the person, because the person must have the options and the freedom to change by themselves. So we put objective, and it is okay. One of the things of the repertoire we change 3/4 rhythm because it's part of the craft that it's required for the happiness, the repertoire, the career, objectively. And usually, artists that are there want to maintain something that is so much restricted, so much ridiculously restricted. As a singer who came to me, I said, I only sing ballads. And I said, what do you mean? I only sing ballads in a repertoire in which you cannot. It is a style in which you cannot. And I said, to make understand the point, have you ever said a sax player making an entire concert only with ballads? Of course not, was the answer. And I said, and why do you think that you can get away with that? But they don't come out, the other rhythms as the ballads. You have a craft problem. I have the bridge. You have to accept to take the bridge. And since you thought that you gave yourself excuses, it's not effective because it's not a choice. It is an excuse. That's why we are judged as narcissists, because we want to get away with excuses. And we say it is a focus. The focus are there, and they add something. And they don't take away effectiveness. This is an excuse. When it is an excuse, you're going to understand the excuse after. We have to be raw on that. We want to get away with some excuses sometimes. So, what it is the point? We have to choose the excuses, which is the big ego that they say we have, and we can do nothing about until we grow humanly and personally until there, and we can be kind with that. And what they are really affecting so much that we risk to be truly narcissist. Truly narcissist is that we don't accept accountability. When we don't accept accountability, what we do? We put a mess and we push and we push and we push the boundaries of others. That is the case of this week. But I could tell you so many cases in my studio. Am I unlucky with the students? No. Am I not good with the students? No. Am I unhappy for that? No. It is just that I have first developed how to help when you're stuck here to get there. And it is objective. Also said, if you're here and the students that are yet there, this is yet solved and it doesn't happen. And I have some which are there. And it's not a question, and it's okay. But when we must say the truth is that sometimes you are there. And when we work that you are there, that is probably the most precious and the most happy part of my work. Because it's the part for which usually the others, they say, I don't want to have you at lesson. I will fire you because you push too much into my boundaries. I am the one who say, you're pushing too much into my boundaries. I still love you. I still respect you. But I put back the boundaries. What are the boundaries? We get in lesson doing some fantastic things. Everybody's happy. Yes. And start. I will give a visual. Those are just the numbers of WhatsApp messages asking out of the lessons material for the lessons. It is too much. It is too much. There are lessons. And during the lessons, always late. Always, not one time, always. Perhaps a couple of times it was on time. Also said, every single time, losing time of the lesson, excusing. If I get to be effective, I need a minimal time. So very often I am wrong and I do all the lesson, even if the student was late. And then the pushing of my personal boundaries start by sending me myriad of messages that I don't know because they are vocal ones. If it is on the next lesson for a change, usually they are requiring during the week. In between lessons, more lesson. Then, more than so, it is. We are making a strategic work for which, even with the negative feedback, the structure can get to acquire the craft, adding a lot of different neurological approaches interfering with the acquisition of the craft. Also said, it is the overreaction of the not having acknowledged that we are doing a work that is going to change some defensive, patterns everywhere. No, it is not my job, and it is not your job, and it is not required because it would be too much for now. Too much. So we put a hierarchy, and we put little that it is sustainable. Away comes the pushing to make it unsustainable. You make it unsustainable. All that we acquired here, the system is going to annihilate. And then you're late. And then you have not done what has been required. Okay, I'm calm. We start the lesson. No, we don't start the lesson. There is the excuses. Ask to be forgiven for all this pushing. Ask to be forgiven for the late. Ask for the... No, I don't have to forgive. You change behavior. Also said, I don't answer because I maintain my boundaries. You don't bring that in the lesson. Because again, you are provoking, pushing my boundaries. You're not accepting my boundary. So the fact is, artists do this. They mess around. Really, really big messing around. With who? With those exactly that are helping there. Because it's that. And we do that. I've done also when I was young. Yes, we are like that. We have to decide, where do I mess around? Not everywhere. This is the thing. We grow enough quite soon to avoid to mess around everywhere. So the thing is, you're late. You're going to lose your lesson. Is it disturbing? In some sort, yes. Why? Because you decided to have a short lesson. So if you lose a third of a lesson of 30 minutes, it becomes that it's really difficult to have enough time to get to do something substantial. Okay. But okay. It's my job to make it effective. It is the artist's job. Stop. To lose the time and then put in the personal that has nothing to do with what we have to do. Also said, never realizing that You accept to maintain the boundaries on 2, 3 things in your life. It was just that. Then you accept that I don't respond to inappropriate messaging me. And I'm not going to say anything because I want to have the lesson and I maintain my boundaries. So when sometimes some publish some of our lessons and you see that I'm a little strong and bitchy, it is the context. It is the context that those kind of artists push, push, push all the time. I'm strong also. I'm an artist and I profoundly love them so that I manage to be effective even if there is the pushing. But I am a human being and I have to bring back the boundaries. And it is the best I can do for them. And they know that. And they know that. And usually, as Tony Bennett says, if you live enough, life teaches you how to live. Also said, I have, after some years, letters, messages, so plenty of understanding of what I have done and we have done together because we do it together. It's just that from a growing position and perspective, my place, of course, it's a little advanced onto those patterns dynamics. And it is why I do not fire them. I prefer bringing back, okay, I'm asking to work on that. And I maintain the point because even if you start there, when you get in this environment for a little time, then you get back there. You get for a little time, you get closer to the line, and at a certain point you switch there. And if I can help you to get there sometimes, when you're going to perform, your brain, when you perform, is going to bring it there. And also said, they do not that in my studio. They do that everywhere. Everywhere. Just that other people, they say, until they're not there, I want nothing to do with. This is the truth. And it is the fact that until they do not get effective on their own for some time, they don't have a career. I am just one of those adults and artists. There are many in different kind of ways helping them. I am the one doing for a bridging of time because Amy Winehouse had an effective voice. When they come to me, some of those accesses make their voice not effective because it is missing too much everywhere. And we have to choose that on some things, even if life has not yet taught us how to live, we maintain the position, even with all that defensive and egotistic thing that has not understood and wants to mess. This was a very personal message to my very cherished and loved artists. Second point of today. The second point of today, it is as usual with the violin parts. The violin parts, we said the larynx is the musculoskeletal system that we have here, because in the body we have two musculoskeletal systems. Musculoskeletal system, it is bone or cartilages, or bone and cartilages, plus ligaments, plus tendons, plus muscles, plus fascia, to provide work, movement, and some biological functions. The larynx, in which we have the vocal folds, it is in the respiratory system, And it is a complete musculoskeletal system. It is not attached to the general musculoskeletal system. There we have some confusion for the voice. And the point for today, it was, we said, studies have assessed that the air is the vibration starting motor of the vocal folds as approximated to the bow of the violin with the hair. We have the fingerboard, though we didn't say what it is. You think about it for the next episode. And what it is that does practically the notes and the different notes and pitches and characteristics of the sound and vibration end. We have the left hand on the fingerboard of the violin, and it corresponds to the muscles of the larynx. In the violin, we have one hand and one fingerboard. Us, we are two unilateral, also said, two entire, not for the organs, but for the musculoskeletal system. Yes, mostly, because we are a little more complex than a violin that is fantastic, and also we are alive. Still, in approximation, we are quite similar. What is the difference between two? That we have two hands on the fingerboard. We have one here and one doing the same functions, so we can do more. And okay, two left hands, we have coupled muscles. One not uncoupled, that is just one, like that in the back of the larynx. And then we have coupled muscles. But on the violin, do the hand remains on one position? Or as in the guitar, does it change position on the fingerboard? It does change its position. So it can do many more octaves and different kind of sounds, because a higher or lower sounds make the instrument sound in a different way. It's not just a pitch. It is also a characteristic of the sound that gives us some pleasure, different. And the question for today is, do we have something of the kind into ourselves for singing? I said yes. You say, but we don't have a fingerboard, which is the vocal tract, which it is the neck in some sort. The larynx moves into the neck. It can go down, it can remain neutral, but it moves. Even if it remains neutral, it doesn't really remain fixed. But we have less space. The segment is smaller, so it is less easy to understand the movements of the larynx. And the larynx positions also itself into different planes of motion. It's a mobile one. It has 3 planes of motions. Into the neck, which is a stubble segment, as we said, joint by joint. But just to say, what moves the larynx? When you're not good, the air moves the larynx. But getting good is using the appropriate muscles that posture the larynx, which are, look at that, a fantastic thing, neck muscles. I changed it because sometimes it happens. So, try to do that. Yeah, I change it all the time because I touch it. Sorry for that. And I lose it, of course. So, like that will be easier. Your clavicles. This is your hyoid bone. There it is here in the neck. It is there, sorry, on the top of the larynx. And they've made seen the muscles that we have here. Yeah, basically this is in that position. Okay. So we have clavicles, neck muscles, those muscles there And this is the line of the jaw. This is the line of the jaw. As you see, there are many muscles into the neck. Many, many, many. They are both attached to the general musculoskeletal system and to the larynx. And they move the larynx. Are the only ones moving the larynx? No. But they are the principal ones that can be approximated into the moving of your hand with the wrist and with your arm. Also said a lot of skillfulness. Again, if you look well, again, they are coupled muscles. What it means, coupled muscles? We have a right side and the left side. Right side and left side, we will see next time what can mean practically. Is it an advantage or a disadvantage? Can be both. Exactly as we were talking about the ego of the singer. It is an advantage in many ways, and it can be a great weakness in other ways, because you get inflexible into your choices and behaviors. Also said you don't adapt, and you're not that open to adapt. In the neck muscles, the cool thing is, okay, I get good in using the neck muscles. And there I smile. Why I smile? Because what we have to realize that it was not so much explicited is that they have a strong, direct relation with your hips and with the movement of jumping, running, and bringing some momentum. Momentum is a force thing of speed and power into the actions of our muscles, into the resistance of the hip muscles, especially by running and jumping. There has been a study that I've cited sometimes about that. Also said we activate the neck muscles, or better, the neck muscles are activated as probably, because it's an hypothesis, as pelvic floor stabilizers when we add resistance, acceleration, and momentum into running and jumping. And this is one of the points that I make since 20 years in my studio, and I've added that to vocal training practically. It is one of the strong side of Koss method, which has internally the biomechanical logics that actually and realistically act into your voice, but they were not explicitly understood and acknowledged. So we have those two hands, and the neck muscles move them. To train the neck muscles to move them, you need the neck muscles to be active, also as a responder to the hips. And I go far. If your hips are not enough trained or dysfunctional, you're going to have mostly, and in my studio I find it constantly, impaired larynx positioning. Also said, you're going to have an impaired phonation. I know. This time I get a lot of information with this last thing. This last thing is the dark side of the moon. The neck muscles, they are the sunny side of the moon. It is so we use the neck muscles. Yes. The dark side of the moon is how can I use those neck muscles? Because it is not so direct and simple. I just activate them. A bit, yes, but not. It gets simple, but it is a little more rich than just isolation of the neck muscle, and in isolation use them. That is what I wanted you to say for today. Have a very good week, have a very good weekend, and see you next time.